Hello, this is Scott, Franchiseinsight.net, jumping into today's topic. Not a fun one, but gang, we got to discuss it. It is business failure. In the first year, 20% of new businesses fail. In the first 5 years, half fail. And after 10 years, only 30% of businesses started remain standing. So, stats to be aware of, not to be afraid of, be aware of. In those numbers, the positive here are folks who retire without a strategy to sell the business, so it becomes a necessity to close the business. People who have a health consideration or pass away, who once again don't have a game plan of selling a business, so the business has to be closed. So those two numbers or two events inflate the numbers. Another item that I did not come across, but one that I personally think might inflate these numbers, are that in this gig economy, people start LLCs. They do some work on their own as a consultant, a coach, or a home-based business for 2-3 years and decide they'd rather, after that, maybe they even have success at it, but they then make a decision to go back into corporate life and then just shut the LLC down. So I think that is also a factor here. So again, those numbers may be on the high side, numbers to be aware of. I'd say one of the biggest takeaways is make sure you evaluate your own health, your own age, and make sure you have a plan around things that are unforeseen, so that if something does happen, that there's a game plan on how to have a partner, a family member take over a business, so you're not in fire sale mode, having to exit. So that's part one of this. Part two is I am hearing a commercial, a fitness concept, a franchise, that is promoting this 20% failure rate for new businesses. And it's interesting to me, first of all, because this concept's, I guess, claiming that they have a much lower failure rate. So don't go get involved with anything else. Come visit us, learn about our low failure rate. Don't be like others and experience 20% failure. So that's, I guess, what their value proposition is. But the part that's really interesting to me is, as I evaluated franchise concepts, the failure rate numbers that were consistently shared are less than 5%. So the consultant, the franchisor, the story was Jimmy and his wife started this business in XYZ town, and they have gone through all of the pain and all of the learnings of starting a new business. And now they have built out all the infrastructure needed to make that business a success wherever it's launched. So there's a formula and there's a predictability if you take that formula and launch this business in your community, according to the folks you'll talk to, the folks I've talked to. But what I have learned and found out is that as you review the FDD, failure rates have to be shared legally. And I apologize, the dog is squeaking on something in the background if you can hear that. In the FDD, failure rates have to be shared legally. And to avoid reporting a failure, a franchisor can buy back a location. So even if you're not great with numbers, you can probably quickly figure out that now your failure rate is a smaller percentage if you're buying back locations. So let's dig into those two events. First of all, the buyback or the corporate owned locations. Not necessarily a bad thing. A franchisor could make a decision on a market that it's going to be gangbusters, and they may invest in launching a concept in that market and then turn around and sell it for more than they can sell a franchise for in 2 to 3 years once it starts getting some traction. So as you evaluate, review the FDD, if you see a bunch of corporate-owned locations, it's worth asking why. Are those speculative engagements, transactions where you launched, or are those buybacks? Just like with failure rates aren't necessarily something to run from. I mean, if it's a new to 3 to 5 year of maturity as a concept, and proportionately in your mind there's a lot of failures, I might caution you against that. I mean, if they've got 12 operational and 4 failures, that would be a red flag. But again, failures are not necessarily something to run from. They're to better understand, because as we mentioned, People may have to shut down a business because they had a health consideration, or they may just not have been very good at it, or it was not what they thought it was going to be and they had to exit. At some point, a franchisor does not have deep enough pockets to keep buying back locations. So that may be the only option, is to shut it down. So again, just look at numbers and percentages, and you're smart people, you can figure these things out, but just kind of dig in with that question. No one should ever be defensive when you ask about failures and why did they happen, or why is that a corporate owned location? Did you have to buy that back? Why did you have to buy that back? Ask the questions. Your money is on the table. So come visit me, franchiseinsight.net. Let's have a 3 to 5 minute discussion about we can talk 10 minutes if you want, actually, for free. Let's talk about your decision to buy a small business or franchise. If there is a fit or a mutual agreement that moving forward to do a deeper dive is in order, then we'll move forward with that. If not, we'll just have the great 10-minute talk and go from there. So you guys have a great day. Thanks for hanging out with me.